I never believed in myself. I always had a hard time with it. And even when I lost weight before, that it wasn't there. I was 80 pounds down and it didn't mean anything. I felt comfortable, but it was all up here in my mind. I was still that Michelle that nobody wanted to see, or I was worried about what they're thinking about me. And now with the journaling, the mindset homework, seeing how far I've come, I'm starting to realize I deserve this. And I never felt deserving of anything before either. I truly believe doing it for me was huge. And when it clicked, I took off.
What's going on, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're new around here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton, and I am your host every single week. Now, I have a really cool podcast episode for you today, because in today's episode, I'm not doing as much of the talking. So this is a three-way podcast. I am doing an interview with myself, Coach Steven, and our client, Michele, because the thing is, Michele has done one of just some of the things that diet culture says you can't do, and this is why I think it's important that I like to bring our clients on who are just crushing, and you hear from their side of things, on what's going on in the day-to-day in the trenches, what's been most impactful and how things have changed for them. That way you can take what they're experiencing and learn from it and apply it to your own life, because it's one of those things where, Ed Milet says it best: you can only transfer to someone that which you experience yourself. And it's one of those things where I may tell you all day the stuff, the tactics, strategy, all the things, but it just hits different coming from the person who's in the trenches, who is just like you, who has your same story. So that's why I have Michele on the podcast today, because just to recap, just to give you an idea, in the last 6 months or so, Michele is down almost 45 pounds. Okay. She has healed through her food issues, like her relationship with food issues and things like that, as well as done all of that, like losing the 43 pounds while eating more than she ever has before. Right. That's what's crazy, is when you do this the right way. It's not crazy. It sounds crazy to most people from the science and psychology side. It's not. But that's the cool part with all this. When you do the right things, everything falls into place. Now, that's not to say there's not going to be hard days. That's not to say that's going to be perfect or always easy. But the thing is, most people who are struggling, maybe you, are usually just on the wrong plan, right? Most people's plan itself is setting them up for failure, and they can't get on the other side of their struggles because the plan itself is the problem. We're not addressing the deep-rooted issues. Like Michele, we addressed her food relationship issues and her really low calories. And then, ironically, a lot of the fat loss stuff just took care of itself. And then she found this worthiness inside her, and this deservingness and this confidence, and everything else just really fell into place. But I don't want to give away all the secrets and all the goods. I want Michele to walk you through it while we have this beautiful three-way conversation. Otherwise, I appreciate you being here. Be sure and subscribe if you have not already, and I'll talk to you in just a second. But the reason, Michele, the reason I wanted you to come on is because just as a whole, I can say one thing, I can teach whatever, but it hits home when it's someone who is in the trenches, just like the people listening. You know what I mean? I can tell someone all the things, but it just hits different when it's your story, when it's your life. And you've done what most people would dream of doing. You're eating more food, you've dropped 43 pounds, and in less than 6 months. It's just crazy. You've done all the things that diet culture says you can't do. So does it feel weird, or what's your end of of things look like?
No, it doesn't feel weird. No. I'm looking back now and it's oh my goodness, it's only been 6 months. I feel it's went really, really fast. But yeah. I mean, it's not hard. It's just you follow the program and that's it.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, what's funny is because most people listening in the trenches feel like this is so hard. It's like torture trying to lose weight and stuff. So for you, what about it doesn't seem as hard? What's made it not the case for you?
The mindset change.
How so?
One, having an amazing coach. I have to start with that, because I am not one. I'm not comfortable talking, but I share everything with him. And I don't feel uncomfortable about that. I think that's helped the journey as well. And he doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. So that's huge. One big thing that has changed for me is when I started this, I was doing it not for me. And when I flipped that switch and I started doing things for me and putting me first, it took Steven a little bit to get through to me with that. But when that switched, um, and then just everything just started happening.
I love that. For you, where were things like before? Like before coaching started, like where were things? Like what was the struggle? Like kind of what did things look like for you?
I wouldn't eat. I would go all day without eating and then eat at nighttime. I wasn't as active. I used to work out. I lost 80 pounds like 10 years ago.
Mm.
And then doing Weight Watchers, gained it all back and then some. Um, but yeah, I just wasn't hungry or just didn't think about eating, just helping my son do his things and working. And um, in the back of my mind, I knew it was the wrong thing, but it was comfortable. That's
Sure.
just what I knew.
Yeah,
So.
no, I totally get that. I think that resonates with a lot of people because like most people like that listen to this show and that we work with like have that background. Like most people come from like Weight Watchers, lost a bunch of weight, gained it all back, went Octavia, lost a bunch of weight, gained it all back, have been doing this for a long time. So it's why most people sabotage when they start to do it the right way. It just feels so abnormal from what they're used to. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't even realize that doing the Weight Watchers, it was so low calorie. I thought I was, doing really good. I had an ice cream every night. um, but yeah, nothing compared to now.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Steven, what? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off, Michelle. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No. I was just going to say now I'm just like satisfied and full. Like sometimes I have to stop because it's so much.
Yeah. Well, that's like the dream. Like again, most people that listen to this, they're eating 1,000 calories a day, 1,200 calories a day, scared to eat carbs and fat loss is a living hell. But then you got you who's down like over 40 pounds in like 6 months, eating more than ever. And fat loss doesn't suck. Like that's like most people are like, this is a magic trick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Steven, what's your side of this? Like from like, cause like you're the one in the trenches with her every day from the coaching standpoint. So talk about your end of things.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest thing that's, well, one, as we had conversation off air is like, Michelle from pretty much day one just really took to the program. I remember in our kickoff call, her saying, "Hey, just be patient with me. Like I'm really going to do this, but it's going to take a little while to get rolling." And it really didn't, she kind of took off right away. But the biggest things that I've noticed, right? I think the big thing that she mentioned was really just doing it for herself and putting herself first has been something that she's had to learn to do. And I think something that we see a lot with clients, right, is they don't put themselves first and they almost feel like it's selfish. But one thing that, we always reiterate is that, hey, you actually have to be selfish in order to be selfless. Like in order to show up as your best self, you have to actually put yourself first and take care of yourself, right? And so that was a big shift for her. But I think that was something that has come to fruition over the last 6 months is just putting herself first, a lot more, belief in self. Once she started building momentum was being consistent, it's like I've just seen that belief in herself build and build and build. And I think it's one of those things where even short term, once you have evidence of something working, then that momentum starts rolling and you start to believe in yourself more. And it's like this compound effect. And so I think that's been the biggest thing from my perspective. And it's interesting because obviously, with the clients that we have or our, the people we work with, there's like we deal with people with a lot of emotional eating, but for her, it was this situation of like emotional not eating. You know what I mean? It's like she has really learned how to process emotions in a healthy way through journaling, which has been like super huge. I think that's been like the piece of the inner work that's, had the most return on investment for her. And one thing that she'll email me about here and there or like write in a check-in is, hey, I had this stressful situation and I wanted to not eat because that was like a subconscious habit. But she's like, you know what? I knew it would be better if I did eat. So it's almost like not that she had to force herself to eat, but she had to consciously be like, I really am not feeling hungry because like this is my pattern, but I'm actually going to process these emotions in a healthy way, and then I'm gonna eat something, right? Because that's what I need to do. And that was kind of something that I've noticed as well.
That's incredible. Michelle, you lit up when he started talking about like this belief in self and like uh, you lit up when he said that. So I'm curious to like lean into that. Was that not as much that wasn't there in the beginning and that's like a thing now obviously. So like how did you go from that like not believing in yourself at all to now you're like it's there and you're feeling great? How'd that happen?
Um, I don't even know when it just I don't. I'm gonna cry.
Good. That's okay. That's okay. Most
um,
people do and
I
this is why it matters.
yeah no. I am not one. I never believed in myself. I always had a hard time with it, and even when I lost weight before, that it wasn't there. Like I was 80 pounds down, and it didn't mean anything. I felt comfortable, um, but it was all up here in my mind. I was still that Michelle that nobody wanted to see, or I was worried about what they're thinking about me, um, and now with the journaling, the mindset homework, um, seeing how far I've come, um, I'm starting to realize um, I deserve this,
Mm.
and I never felt deserving of anything before either. Um, so
That's incredible. I'm so proud of you.
it,
This is the epitome of dieting from the inside out. In it makes so much sense why just focusing on the surface level shit doesn't work. This is the stuff that makes the surface level shit easy and effortless. You know what I mean? That's why this doesn't suck for you.
I like I would just log my stuff and like where the inches, taking the pictures. I don't look at them. I just send them to Steven and not pay, like whatever. Even though I see it's down, it's like it didn't click. One day I don't know what it was. It just I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm down 5 inches off my waist. Um, Told my son that, and the smile on his face was so worth it. He's like, you got this, mom, keep going.
Oh,
And he's my baby.
yeah.
um, but yeah, it that hit me when I realized how much I did lose, even though I saw the numbers going down. Um, yeah, my stomach is a big thing for me, and that's going away. Even at work, the kids sitting on my lap now, they have room. Like, but
Oh,
before it was like here. I work in a pre-K classroom, so
mm-hmm.
um, that's another thing I've noticed
I
too.
love that. That's incredible, and that's the thing is we have a tendency the way psychology works is to we don't realize how good we're doing until the proof is irrefutable in our face. You know what I mean? Because like you're the one in the trenches every day. It's like watching your hair grow out. You don't see the changes until it's like, bam. You know what I mean? Steven, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I mean, those for me are I mean, obviously the physical transformations for us are great, but the thing for me is like the quality of life improvements. Those are really my favorite results that clients gain. And like, when she emailed me, I think it was a few weeks ago, Michelle, or it might have been on a check-in, and was just talking about like how much easier it is to get on the ground and get back up and keep up with these kids, because pre-K, we're talking probably about 3 and 4 year olds who are very active, right? So being able to keep up with them in the work that she does, obviously that's, the work that you do is fulfilling or you wouldn't do it, right? So being able to have that quality of life improvement to me, that's like beautiful. I mean, those are my favorite kind of results, honestly.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's way easier getting up and down off the floor now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're even doing squats in the classroom in the
Yeah,
mornings. Yeah.
I love
now,
that.
now it's a big thing. I just pick a couple of the kids and I say, okay, how many are we doing? How many doing? Of course, you got the 1, the 4, and then you got your 10s and you got 21. So I pick the highest one.
Let's
Um,
go.
and we do them. And on the 100th day of school, the teacher threw it out that we are going to do 100 squats that day.
Wow.
So that's a challenge. I think it's in February. I mean, we won't do it all at once because I don't. Well, they can probably handle it. I don't think I can. But that day we're doing 100 squats.
Wow. I think
So.
you'd be surprised. I think you'll be able to do just fine. So
It's good with just doing 20.
let me ask you this, Michele. Like one of the things that I try to do a good job. I try to do a good. Wow, words are hard. I try to do as good of a job as I can on making things in the show as tactical as possible for those listening. So from a tactical perspective, in a habits perspective, what things have you guys done that's made the biggest difference for you? I know you've talked about journaling. I know you've talked about like doing this for you and things like that. But like specifically, what are some of the things? And Stephen, I'll have you piggyback on this as well. That has made the biggest difference for you.
Consistency, like logging my food, going to the gym three times a week at minimum. I've been walking more. I try to listen to the podcasts. Anything that's gonna help me stay focused on where I want to be, what I want to do. I actually realize that I can be disciplined, and that's what's gonna get me where I want to be. It to keep going and doing what needs to be done, whether I want to do it or I don't want to do it.
Did the old version, like old Michele, was that a thing that wasn't there? Like it was more of like I only showed up when I felt like it and things like that?
Yeah. I don't mind going to the gym, but I never did it consistently. When I get there, I used to enjoy it, but it was never, okay, I got to do this. I got to make this a lifestyle. I got to make this, something I'm always going to do.
Yeah.
I would just give up.
Sure.
And gain everything all back.
So what made this time different? Like what made you because that's how like a lot of people feel. So for you, what made this time different where you're like, no, I'm going to show up. This is my non-negotiables. I'm going to go whether I want to or not. What made this time different?
Because I'm 55 and I knew if I waited any longer, it wasn't going to happen. And I did it I truly believe doing it for me was huge.
What made that change? Like you said, you started off, this wasn't for you, but you switched it to you. What made that switch happen?
Because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Like I did, but I wouldn't, like food issues. I wanted to do it so I can keep up with my son, so I can be around, do things with him. And I would, over the summer, that's when I joined you guys. I would work with him. I'd go all day without eating. And then when I had to do my check-in, my food wasn't like really good. So doing that and not going to the gym, missing it because, or skipping, like I would do it like the 3 days, but I wouldn't do it really like I should. I would wait and then, regret it. And Stephen convinced me that I need to do this. It's not selfish to do what I need to do first. And when it clicked, I took off.
I love that. Stephen, I'd love to hear your side of that, but specifically around that conversation of it's not selfish. It's not selfish for you to do this for you. It's required to be selfless because I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think there's a lot of shame around that. So I'd love to hear your side of how that conversation happened and kind of how you taught that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really common too with parents, even though her son is older. Like obviously she cared for him, right? Michele, you were a single mom, right?
Yep.
Right. And
yeah,
so
it was just him and I his whole life.
Yeah, and so that's, as a single parent myself, and I only have my son half the time, right? But it takes a serious amount of dedication. And a lot of times, that can become, we're not showing up for ourselves because we're putting this child first so much. And that had become like just a pattern for her. And so I think it's one of these stories. Sorry, I'm playing with the like widget in my ADHD hands. But I think if you're wondering what that is, but I think for her it was really, I think it's just one of those stories of like, what gets you started is not going to be, it might not, like sometimes it can be the spark to start things, but it's not going to be sustainable, and I think that's what she was experiencing. And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was over an email. She sent me an email, and she'd already been doing pretty well, right? I was like, come on, like, Michelle, come on, you're already doing well. I didn't say that to her, but I told her, I said, the reality is, if you don't do this for yourself and you're not showing up for yourself, like it's just not going to happen. It's not going to be a long-term thing. And that really was like a switch for her, I believe.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting is that statement alone, what that's doing is that's basically forcing one to fix the relationship they have with themselves, because our relationship with ourselves is is the most important one, because if we have a shitty relationship with us, that bleeds into everything else and every other relationship. You know what I mean? It's hard to lead your family. It's hard to be a good example to your son. It's hard to lead an organization if your relationship with yourself is, just to say it, toxic. Let's say it's not good. Let's say there's baggage around it. Just in the same way that the foundation of a house touches every room, your relationship with you touches every relationship in your life. So the most selfless thing you can do is fix you to you, fix the relationship you have with yourself. So are you feeling that, Michelle, in other areas in your life, like with your son and your friends and everything?
Yeah. My boyfriend mentioned that too, that it's a lot better, and it has been better with us because I'm not second guessing myself. I'm feeling better about myself. I'm doing things for me. So yeah, it's into our relationship as well.
But I want to say too, part of that is because of what you've done in cultivating, self love and self compassion for yourself, like what you said earlier. And when you said, I deserve this, we've had, conversations where, she's had to advocate in her relationship to really, show up for herself. And that's it in turn bled into the relationship and benefited the relationship. So that just goes to show that, you do have to advocate for yourself and believe in yourself first, or nobody else will.
Michelle, when a lot of people that I talk to struggle with that one thing in particular, that like there's this underlying tone of I don't deserve it. And for whatever reason. So for you, when did that switch happen, and what made you realize? Was it like a slow turn, or was it one day you're like, no, I do fucking deserve this? Like for you, what'd that look like?
It was slow. Everything's slow with me. But, yeah, I don't know when it really turned, but I just woke up one morning and I was just like, you know what? I do deserve this. I do deserve to be happy. I do um to deserve to
Yeah.
I do deserve to do the hard things. I'm gonna do the hard things. I want to enjoy my life. I want to finish strong. I don't want to be weak anymore.
That's so good. I love that. This is literally the exact reason I wanted you to come on, because I think there's a lot of people that'll be listening to this that are like feeling that, because a lot of people don't. They're like, you know what? I want to feel deserving, but I don't. I want to be happy, but I'm not. I want to be that example to my kid, but I'm not, but if Michelle can do it, there's no reason I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I can, everybody can too. We have to make that choice. And it's hard to choose to do for ourselves, but that's what did it.
Yeah.
And then don't turn back. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Enjoy each day.
Absolutely. Steven, why do you think she's been so successful? Especially like that's the thing, dude. Like for like losing, not just like physically, like, yeah, losing 43 pounds in 6 months is incredible. Becoming your biggest advocate for yourself is incredible, all while eating more calories and fixing your emotional state is incredible. So like when we stack everything that she's done, it's pretty ridiculous, like in a good way. Like it's awesome. So for you, from the coaching standpoint and a tactical standpoint, why has she been this successful in in the grand scheme of things, this short period of a time?
Yeah, well, it's two things, right? And this is why in the beginning, it's like I never doubted her ability to be successful, because even from the beginning, she was doing the things, even if she wasn't. And this is part of the thing, right? Is like, even if you don't fully buy into it, but you're doing what your coach is saying, you're following the program. She was doing that. She was still tracking her food. She was still showing up to the gym, even if she didn't want to, right? She was diving into journaling, right? And if I believe, I could be wrong, but I remember like journaling in the beginning wasn't really a thing, right? Like you had to kind of really grow into that, right? But she was doing the things, she was doing the things. She was consistent with it. And I think the fact that she was already doing the things and she was experiencing not this massive success, but she was experiencing a little bit of success, right? So I think just being consistent long term, again, what gets you started might not be what keeps you sustainable. So she was being consistent. She was doing the things, but then the buy-in, I think the major buy-in, and then really leaning into just the inner work, like I said, journaling has been so foundational for her. And I feel like from my perspective, just helped her grow so much, and also like figure things out, heal things that she needed to heal, things that she needed to look at. She'll say things in an email and she'll like spell it out and be like, oh, I should probably journal on that. And then my literal response is, yeah, you should go journal on that. That's what you should do. You know what I mean? So I think just constantly, one, being consistent, and then two, that just cultivating that buy-in, cultivating that belief in self. But again, for anybody listening, it's like you cultivate that belief in self by those little wins, by being consistent. Like it's that whole, like, even it's like kind of like that, fake it till you make it, but then it's like you start to buy into it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, I'm seeing this actually is working, but actually I have to believe in myself and believe that I can do it for this to be a long-term thing. So
that's awesome. Well, that's the thing is, in Michele, and this is what you've done amazing at, one of the many things is, when just kind of to piggyback off what Steven said, is if you think, how do we get belief in someone else? Is when their track record of their word matches up with their actions. I'm sorry, when their track record of their actions match up with their word. But the reason most people don't believe in themselves is because they're full of shit. I'm going to start over Monday and they don't. I mean it this time, new year, new me, and it's not. I'm going to be consistent and they aren't. Well, if that was anyone else in your life, you would be like, you're full of shit. Why are we talking? We would not believe in that person who has bad credibility with us. But what you did, Michele, is you fixed the relationship with you and did the things that you said you would do. You said, I'm going to go to the gym whether I feel like it or not. And when you had that test day of, I don't want to fucking go, you went anyway. And I don't want to journal, but you journaled anyway. This is the beauty of where people don't have to be consistent. Or I'm sorry, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be consistent. Yeah. And that's how you cultivated that, is you had a poor record in the past of your own standard with yourself, and you put your actions and your money where your mouth was, and all of a sudden it fixes itself the same way you broke it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It's amazing how it all just kind of transpires.
Yeah.
In journaling, there was times I had so much, I just started scribbling because it wouldn't come out fast enough. I mean, you couldn't even read what I wrote.
Yeah.
And there's times I don't have much to write, or I don't, but when I do, we just put it all on paper, and it's amazing how you feel afterwards.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I think it's ironic that the people in the beginning who are, I don't know, Steven, if you'll agree with this or not, I'm assuming you will. The people who are most hesitant to journal have the most transformative experience with journaling. The people who are like, yeah, I don't want to do it. I'm not a journaler. This feels weird. Ironically, we finally get them to journal and they're like, okay, my life has never been the same ever since I started writing on that stupid paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just getting them to do it consistently, because I know I've seen both sides of it. I've seen clients that were so close and just wouldn't buy into the journaling and, unfortunately didn't experience the same success that clients like Michele have. And I think that's a foundational piece of it, because journaling has so much to do with, one, processing emotions, but two, reflecting on your behaviors, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Michele, you have the 3 components that I've said since day one that makes an incredible client, and the reason why you've been able to be so successful in such a short period of time. Like, I know, don't get me wrong, 6 months is no slouch, but if we zoom out in the grand picture of your life, you've done a lot in 6 months, incredible amounts. But there are 3 things that I've said for years that make a good client, that make a great transformation. And I've always said, if you give me these 3 things, I can give you a new life. And you meet all 3. Number 1 is a student. Give me someone who's willing to learn, who's willing to absorb new information, go, okay, I don't know it all, and I'm willing to learn the new information. You check that box. The hardest one, number 2, someone who's willing to unlearn. I think learning and unlearning, some people go back and forth with me on this, but they're different. It's easy to learn, but unlearning old habits and patterns is really, really hard. But you were willing to go, all right, I was wrong about this. All right, I guess this is the new way now and the old way is obsolete. And then the last one is someone who's coachable, someone who is willing and able to take feedback, even though in coaching, we give feedback in a very empathetic and caring way. It's never drill sergeant, judgy, none of that. But part of coaching is feedback. It's being a coach is one of the jobs where we are signing up to have hard conversations with people. Hey, we're not doing this quite right. Hey, we need to adjust this. Hey, we need to stop doing this and start doing this. Hey, I think we may be making excuses. I think we need to just double down on this, and this, right? That's the kind of conversations we're having. But you were able to take that third piece and be coachable, where you're able to take that advice, take the feedback, and then implement it and run with it. So, which is why neither Stephen or I are surprised at all about the success you've had, because you match all 3. And that's what's made you so successful from my perspective.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you feel like you match all 3 of those from your perspective?
Hearing you say that, yeah. I did have to learn things, and I wanted to learn. I mean, I just wanted to absorb everything. Yeah. I mean, I went through the 180 Academy and no time, because I just couldn't get it enough. And then actually, what's amazing is I just started to redo it, re-listen to it, and I jotted stuff down, and it was in nothing like the first time I listened to it. It was because my mind is so different, I guess, the way I was absorbing, it wasn't what I absorbed the first time.
Yeah. You have a higher level of awareness. This is why, some of my favorite books about this stuff that I read, I like to read every year, because I'm a different Jared every year. And so I'm like, oh, I pick up on that differently. Or I can't watch Toy Story without picking up new things that I didn't see the last time, let alone this bigger, deeper stuff. So what do you think about that, Stephen?
What think about in particular?
The awareness changing, why she's able to pick up, even going back through the academy, she's picking up different stuff.
Well, I think it's just like you mentioned, it's just testament to growth, right? It's just testament to, I think the first time you go through something like that, what's going to stick out most is what resonates with you most. But then as you grow and evolve, you some things internalize. So you already are once you change, it's okay, I got that, right? So that might not stick out as much because you're like, cool, I already do that. But then something else might stick out of oh shit, that's something I could improve on, or that maybe that the drift, a lot of clients come back to the drifting module, right? Oh, I then, after I heard Jared talk, I went and looked at where in my journey could I potentially be drifting. That's an example. But yeah, and I would say too, this is very similar. I don't know if you remember we did it a few months ago, but the podcast that we did with my client Rachel, right? Michelle's very similar in that way, where the longest part of her check-in is the takeaways from the 180 Academy or the tribe call. And when I see that as a coach, I'm like, oh man, she's internalizing all this shit, because this is these are in-depth descriptions. That's the longest part of the check-in this week. You know what I mean? So she's definitely been a student, and then applied all of that as well. So
that's the other thing that Michele, that you mentioned, and Stephen, you alluded to as well, that I think a lot of people listening need to take a reflection on their own self with this is, Michele, you've gotten really good at your own pattern recognition. When you were in the check-in talking about ooh, I think I should journal about this. That's a pattern. You recognized a pattern that's happening, that's on autopilot, and you recognize it's happening and immediately created an action on what to do with it. This is where it's getting into the grounds of coaching yourself. This is that really shows your growth, because the thing is, this is how one of the ways we teach to be independent. A lot of coaching programs trap people in the program, or they never teach anyone how to be independent. And that's part of what you're doing, is becoming independent, where you do it and you go, oh, I'm doing it again. Here's what I need to do. Or, oh, hey, I started this again. All right, I should probably do this now. Because if if you can't recognize your own patterns, you're caught up in them. That's one of the things a really high level coach does is we catch patterns. Hey, you're doing it again. Hey, this is starting to come up. This is going to relate to this and cause this to happen. So for you that you were like, ooh, wait, I'm doing it again, aren't I? I should go journal about this. That's a very high level skill. That's incredible.
Thank you. Add a good coach.
That's right. Steven's a gangster. Steven's a gangster. So I'm curious, Steven, is there anything else that we haven't really talked about that you think is worth pointing out, especially from a tactical side for the listeners?
Well, I don't. So one thing that we haven't talked about is also like, just the confidence that she's built in the gym. So like she's gotten a lot stronger and gotten a lot more competent in the gym, competent in terms of like believing in herself. So, I think you mentioned at one point, Michelle, I could be wrong because sometimes this stuff blurs together, and it was check-ins ago, but I think I remember a check-in where you were talking about like taking your stuff to like a certain corner of the gym and then like but you've built the confidence now where like you lift where the guys lift, you know what I mean? And, so that's been huge for her is just watching that. And she looks forward to strength training now. Like, in the beginning, it was like she liked it, but it was just kind of like checking the box. Like I just get it done. So I'm like have some sort of movement. Cause I remember you mentioning like you worked out in the past and you enjoyed it. I think she's found that again. I think she's found the part where she like really enjoys going to the gym. She really enjoys strength training. She is getting stronger. And so that's huge as well. When clients can lean into that, I think, that goes a long way as well. So it's always worth mentioning.
Talk about that, Michelle. Is that what, have you found a love for enjoying strength training again?
Yeah. Yep. And as he said, I just get right in there and I don't even think about what people are thinking about me anymore. Where before I'd be hiding in the corner, take my weights in the back room. And now I'm just like, nope. I even look in the mirror every once in a while.
Wow.
And that's
Nice.
Let's go. Let's go.
to make sure my form is right. But yeah, no, I enjoy it.
That's good. I love that.
It's making me more active, stronger. And it's not just like the physical, like it's helping me mentally too, because I'm like, oh wow, look, I can do this, or I'm up in my weights and doing more reps and.
What I'm also hearing is you're having a slight switch, not totally, and there's no need to be totally. You're having a switch to some intrinsic things. Like a lot of times in the beginning, a lot of people have only extrinsic goals. I want to lose weight. I want the fat to come off. I want to look better. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's so fucking important to have some intrinsic goals. I do this because I feel better. I do this because I'm more confident when I do it. I do this because my life is better because of it. Right? Like you don't go to the gym and like weighing the pros and cons of like, well, how many calories did I burn? Do I look any different? You're like, no, I go and I feel better about myself. I go and I'm stronger. I'm a better example to my son. I'm a better example to my students. So.
Do you know who, Jared, Jay Ferrugia is?
I've heard that name.
He's like one of the OGs in like the internet strength training space. He's been doing it for probably close to like 30 years now. But he has a podcast that's really good called Renegade Radio. I used to listen to it all the time. I'm talking like, I'm talking like almost a decade ago. Like he was one of the first people I ever found online. And he said this thing on a podcast that, when someone says something that's so powerful, it sticks with you forever. And one thing that he said is, he said that even if he didn't get the physical benefits of strength training, he would do it weekly and consistently just because of the impact it has on his mind. And that's really what she's alluding to. And that's huge for me. Like that's really why I strength train, because of how good it feels for me mentally. And so I think keeping that in mind, like you said, those intrinsic things are so much more powerful than just that external,
Mm-hmm. Well, and Michelle, as you can tell, the stronger you get, the more fat you burn.
Yeah, there's benefits all the way around, right? Like, yeah, getting stronger is fucking empowering, and building muscle is awesome. Obviously, muscle is, half the size of fat. So all kinds of benefits you get from it.
Michelle, how did you go from like especially for someone that's listening, that's scared to walk around the gym, that feels like they have to hide in the back room with their little weights, and they're afraid to go out in the area with all the meatheads like me. How did you do that? How did you go from being the person that hides in the back with like little weights to the one in the front of the room with the big weights and like actually like doing this thing? How did that transition happen?
I think it was just because I was feeling more confident, like as I started building myself up and getting stronger. And then I had to just do it. I couldn't, like, I just got tired of, okay, I'm going in the back, and I got to cart the weights there and cart the weights there. And
Yeah.
I'm just, you know what? No, I think it was that my mind just switched to, I can do this and I want to do this.
That's awesome. And then you just adapt it. It's like exposure therapy. You go to the gym 3 times a week and you start doing the thing, and all of a sudden it's like, man, this isn't so bad. I don't think people are thinking about me.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I was always looking around, like, out of the corner of my eye, like, okay, who's watching me? What are they going to say? But once I just did it, it was okay.
You know the funniest, most ironic thing about what you said is, or that just whole scenario in general. No, seriously, the most ironic thing is you draw more attention to yourself when you go and grab the weights and go to the special little room than when you just lift. No, for real. I'm at the gym, and when I see other people lifting, right in the main dumbbell area, I'm like, oh, dope, they're getting their lift in, But like seriously, it's funny. It's just ironic, not in a bad way, but it's just this ironic thing, right? It's like we're drawing more attention by like going to this corner instead of just getting it done, So it's been super dope to watch you. Yeah, yeah. No, but I love that. Those are the type of emails that I love to read. Is like, fuck yeah, she's, getting out there and building that confidence and lifting where everybody lifts, So
The Smith machine was the start of it, actually. Oh my goodness, that was a mental breakthrough right there. And then after a couple times, that was like one of my favorite things. And then,
that's awesome.
now it's not in my workout anymore, but eventually.
Well, that makes sense, because it's like you can't move the Smith machine to the room, right? So that was the thing that was probably like, oh shit, I'm already out here. Might as well just kick it out here,
That's awesome. That's so good, girl. I'm so proud of you. Let me ask you this, and this is one that I always like to ask. When it comes to the subject of investing in yourself, and I mean, it's a big deal. Like, especially, like, everyone says they want it until it's time to put their dollars where their mouth is. So for you, when it came to like the idea of actually investing your hard-earned money in coaching and doing this, like that's a whole different level of buy-in. My question is, were you hesitant in the beginning? And if you were, what made you overcome that and actually pull the trigger?
No, when I called you, you mean? When I talked with you?
Yeah, like when you were like, all right, I want to do this, and you wanted to apply for coaching, were you hesitant? Like, a lot of times that's when people are like, yeah, I want this. Then when it comes time to swipe that card, it's like, I don't know if I actually want this. Or a lot of people are hesitant, and that sabotage kicking in. So for you, my question is, were you hesitant, and how'd you overcome that?
I actually wasn't. And that's like, so not me, but I was just ready. I just knew I had to do something.
Why is that? Like especially like if you said you're normally hesitant with this kind of thing, why weren't you with this though?
See, I don't know. I just wanted it bad enough, I guess. Wanted that change.
For
and
you,
to invest in myself is not something I would normally do either. But I think I was just at rock bottom, and I was like, if I don't do something, it's only just gonna go down from there.
Mm-hmm. So for you, it was a matter of you actually wanted what you said you wanted, and you knew if you didn't make this change, it was going to keep getting lower, is what I'm hearing. What were you going to say, Stephen?
Oh, I was just curious if like what led to like kind of similar. I mean, it's kind of a similar question to what Jared's asking, but was it the fact that there was social proof available? Like you had seen other people that had been successful with the program that you were like, okay, I can do this?
No. I didn't really even I know that's like not the typical answer, but I didn't really like look at who were like how how they lost or what they were doing. I don't even remember how I found you. It just I swear it was just all the Lord, because even when you asked me that question, like what coach do I want, I had no clue, because I didn't like research all this stuff. And you're like, well, most people want you. And I'm like, I was gonna say, yep, I do. And I was like, no, you just put me who you think, is going to be the best fit. And I am so glad that I let you do that. But no, I just found you, and I knew this is what I got to do.
I love that so
I
much.
think you had said you hadn't even been following Jared that long when you signed up, which is cool.
When you know what I mean? Like it's some of my greatest mentors. I just knew, you know what I mean? Especially like if you feel guided, like whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in. And I think this is why also I'm not a fan of ever forcing coaching. Like I don't play the hard sales game. I don't play the whole like twist your arm, because if I have to force it, that tells me it's not the right fit. So if you're like, no, I know this is where I'm supposed to be, that's the kind of person we want to work with. So
No, I am so glad I did. I don't regret it. I don't regret spending that money. It was worth it.
I love it. I love it. What would you say to someone, like, especially from a tactical sense, who is where you were right now as we wrap up? What would you say to someone who is where old Michele was, who's struggling?
Take the plunge. Do it for yourself. Don't give up on yourself. And just know that if you keep being consistent and disciplined, you'll get where you need to be.
That's so good. That's so much easier said than done. That's so much easier said than done.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of being selfish, because it's selfless. When he said that, it's like, you're not being selfish. That's just, it resonated. That's all I needed to hear.
That's so good. That's so good. Guys, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I can't believe it's already been almost 45 minutes. So now Michelle's going to be weird listening to you on the show whenever this comes out.
I know. I'm going to listen though.
Oh yeah. I love it. I
can't even believe I've gone 45 minutes. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I have nothing to say. What am I going to say?
No, you have plenty. You have plenty to say. Well, that again, that's why, is because I could say all this, but it's not going to hit home like it will you. It's like the old saying goes, you can only transfer to someone that which you experience. I don't have your experiences. You don't have my experiences. So it's going to hit home differently. And instead of me just talking the whole time, I would rather have someone who is in the trenches, who has done the thing, who's doing the work, it's going to resonate with someone like other people more than I will. So I appreciate you coming on and being so vulnerable and willing to share these things.
Thank you.
Of course. Beautiful. Well, I appreciate you too, Stephen, as always. I appreciate you guys doing this, and we will all talk soon.
Thanks. See ya.
And we are back. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you are not subscribed yet to the show, be sure and do that and leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening to this at. Now, before you go, I have a few things for you. Number one, if you want to be the next success story like Michele, and you really resonated with her story, like, yep, I struggle with that. Yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. And you want us to do for you exactly what we did for Michele, apply for coaching at the link below. I have a very special place in my heart for my podcast listeners, because it takes a very special person to listen to me right into a mic for 45 minutes. So I do have a thing set up where you will go straight to the front of the line and you can apply for coaching right now, straight from the podcast. And we do have some extra things for you, because if you do get accepted into coaching because you did come from the podcast. So be sure and check that out. The other piece of this, if you are, let's say you're not quite ready for coaching yet. Let's say you're like, I'm not sure, I'm really new to this. That's fine. Let's say though, you just don't know where to get started. You're just like, I just want to be pointed in the right direction. Well, I have a fat loss course for you. It's called the Fat Loss Checklist. It's in the description as well. It'll give you the A to Z's of fat loss, the right way, where you're not having to do stupid stuff to lose weight. And let's say you're in the camp of like, well, I kind of know what to do. I just suck doing this alone. I like to be around people. I like community. I want to have a sense of other people around me while doing this. Well, I have a spot for you. So I actually have a free group called Fat Loss Simplified, where it is my home base, where I have this group of like, we're coming close to 10,000 people in this group at the time of recording this, which is pretty crazy, but where everyone is moving forward together. I keep this group policed, as in, like, as soon as I start to see it's a public group, like anyone can join it. So if I start to see some toxic diet culture bullshit, I'm quick with the block button. But otherwise I put a lot of trainings, a lot of resources. My whole staff is in there. Everything is going on in there. So if you are on your own with this and you are the kind of person who loves accountability and a sense of community, you'll want to join that group. That way we can help get you to where you want to be. Otherwise, that's it. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. If you have not if you have not subscribed yet to the podcast, be sure and do that. Otherwise, I will talk to you next week. See ya.